Hi there. Nice to be here. I just thought I would jump on real quick because I had a feeling that some of us could use a little bit of encouragement. And so if you've been feeling like you just ran a marathon or something huge just ended or something just finally is behind you, but you're not sure, then this could be an opportunity for your subconscious or your intuition to reassure you. Okay? So, while we wait for some people to jump on, because this was pretty last minute, I wanted to offer pick a card essentially, something that we do in the groups. So while we wait for some people to jump on, I wanted to just offer a little bit about archetypes and what this means for you. So the way that I understand it is all of us have archetypes inside of us, which means systems or almost like characters. And some of these characters you might be familiar with. It could be things like the artist or the rebel or maybe even the prostitute. So, what does this mean? Let me adjust this. So, inside of us, there are many parts of us, and ideally, we would have all of these parts integrated. So, it's really normal for any person to actually have about 30 parts of them. And so, when we can integrate these, which means when we can be open, acknowledging, and even accepting and non judgmental, and even loving these different parts, they can work harmoniously. And that's when we can get rid of bad habits. That's when we can have more of our energy, more of our power in our daily life. On the other hand, what's more common is instead of having these all integrated, we have them disowned, fragmented, rejected. Because let's say when you were growing up, you had to be the mediator. And so because that was so natural to you, but you didn't really love it when you became older, let's say this is something that you tended to naturally just do. You seemed to jump in and you wanted to help people all the time, even when you were getting something out of it. So, how this looks is if you had the mediator, for example, you might jump into other people's business, you might really have ulterior motives, but not know it because this archetype in you, this part of you, is a little bit out of your awareness. So, this is also why so many times when I'm working with people, they say, I know it. I know that I shouldn't go back to that relationship. I know that I should eat healthier. I know that I should meditate. I know that it would be good for me to move to a different place. And yet, I can't seem to push myself to do it. And so, what happens sometimes is we turn on ourselves and we can start to guilt or shame ourselves. What's wrong with me? I mean, I know how to eat healthy. Why can't I just force myself to do it? And it makes so much sense. So many of us, just like you, are probably under a lot of pressure. And so when we can't do the things we need to do, it makes a lot of sense that we're either hard on ourselves at first or hard on someone else. However, it is a bit healthier if you can take a different approach. And that's not to say that we can blame necessarily our archetypes, but if we can have compassion that there might be a part of us, for example, that is, let's say, let's say there's a part of us that feels like if we eat healthy, we have to do it in our own way. In other words, we know the healthy things to eat, but maybe because we have a little bit of rejection of the typical healthy person, we decide, well, yeah, that works for some people, but not for me. I would need something really unique. I would need to eat ashwagandha from a copper bowl 9 times a day or something like that in order to be healthy. And so we have these subconscious beliefs. They're subconscious. And if we can make them conscious, that's when everybody in your canoe is going to go in the same direction. All that to say, the more we can become aware of the strengths in us, also, the more that we can integrate them. So, let's get started. I'm going to just pull some of the most common archetypes because there are, I think, there are 74. There are 74 archetypes here. This is by Carolyn Mace. It's really good for self-awareness and for healing things. And out of 74 cards, almost all of us have about 10 core cards. And I will get out some of those. Those are things like the hero. We want to be the hero, or the rescuer, or the prostitute. The prostitute in this case is not so much about literally selling your body for money as a sex worker, but more about highlighting the challenge of survival sometimes. Sometimes the prostitute alludes to the part of us that has to sell our soul to the devil, so to speak. Maybe you took a job that you hate because you need the money, or you're neglecting yourself because you need the money, something like that. So let's do an intuitive pick a message, and that will give you at least a starting point, and then you can decide if that fits. Okay? So if you'd like to, take a second, take a deep breath in, hold it, and breathe out as if you could breathe out from your heart. And can you imagine that you're breathing in from your heart? And for just a couple minutes, can you feel exactly the air moving in your nose and out of your nose? And feeling that bright emerald green flame of intuition in your heart, burning away any self-doubt, past words or criticisms of others, any gaslighting from the past, burning away any fear of failure, burning away any fear of success. Good. And now tap the very center of your chest on your sternum. Breathe in and out, and close your eyes. Stop. Noticing even the most subtle ripples of vibration going through your body. And notice any remaining heaviness or a gray, cloudy soot around your heart. There's nothing to fix right this second. Just feel that heaviness. You have done nothing wrong. This gray energy or this heaviness is just the ash, just the byproduct of living life fully. but we can release it to feel like we have a fresh start. So focus on the center of your chest, breathe in, move it to your forehead, breathe in again, move it to the top of your head, breathe in again, hold it, hold it, hold it, and release. Focus on the center of your chest, breathe in, your forehead, breathe in, the top of your head, breathe in, and breathe out. Good. One more time. Focus on the center of your chest. Forehead, breathe in. Make it a good one. The top of your head. And imagine blowing out a candle. Good. And now I'd like you to look in the distance, and there are candles or a candle on a table. How many candles do you see? It could be between 1 and 7. It's okay if you see more than one. And if you see them in different groups, that's okay too. Now just imagine you could take your hands and combine all of these candles into one large candle, your inner flame, your inner intuition, your inner spark that can never truly be blown out. And when you're ready, just enjoy the warmth of that candle and notice that in the distance, you have many supportive people, supportive archetypes standing there. Some of them applauding for how far you've come. And from now on, you can take time to get in touch with these parts by briefly meditating or asking, what part of me is most active right now? Or what part of me do I need? And when you're ready, wave to them and open your eyes. So, let's get started. I'm going to spend about 2 to 3 minutes on each of these. And so if you had more than one, then you will get some insight, okay? And if you notice that candles were in groups, let's say you saw 2 candles on one side and then 3 candles on another, then to me that would represent you have a number 3 and a number 5. Okay? And we could also look at that as having number 7. Use your intuition. So, are you ready? Okay. I just got a new camera. It's like permanently zoomed in. Okay. So, if you saw a number 1 or 1 candle, then the part of you that has just really pushed you through something in life is the scribe. I'll try to hold this here for a minute. Okay. And the scribe, if it will show up, says preserving knowledge and information. So, if you saw number 1, then there's a part of you that is really good at organizing things, to keeping track, to literally, you might be literally writing a book, you might be um, an accountant, or you might work as an office manager, you might even be writing music, or there's a part of you that powerfully expressed what you needed to say recently, maybe in an email or a text message. And that part of you is so powerful and it came through. And although this part of you has led you to sort of turn away from the world for a little while, you've been in hermit mode, essentially kind of hunkering down. This step you took to get out of this situation is really going to help. You also might connect with tigers. You might also you might also be having some money difficulties right now, and you should know that you, by speaking up for yourself or writing this down, you have made a ripple effect that is going to improve your money, it's going to improve your connection with others, and you might want to eat some apples if you haven't eaten them in a while. Okay? You also are keeping better track of time, and that is something that's going to help a lot. But the scribe is a great strength to have. And in reverse, this would be altering facts or plagiarizing other people's work. Okay. You also might have just, some of you might have just had a child, you might have just given birth or given birth to an idea. All right, if you saw number 2 or saw 2 candles, you are the artist. Okay, the artist, expressing a dimension of life that is just beyond the 5 senses, inspiring others to see life symbolically. And so if you saw number 2, there is a part of your life that has been beyond words for quite a while. You have been working so hard to try to overcome a really complex situation, and every time you've tried to explain it to someone, they've given you overly simplistic advice, or, you know, it's something that you've tried and you've been really trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, and they've just been falling short. And so, what you've done recently is you've accepted there are lots of moving parts in my life, and not everyone is going to understand that. And I have to get really creative. Maybe you've started to become more spiritual. Maybe you've started to literally start to paint or draw. Even if it's not very good, getting it out of you is so important. Whatever you're feeling, you might be feeling a bit frustrated, but there's a little glimmer of hope. You're already feeling that likely. There's a little bit of lightness, a little bit of happiness, a little bit of relief. And you might have recently been starting to learn about astrology or, like I said, spirituality. You are going to be really surprised at how much just expressing yourself to others and using your intuition is going to make things easier. You don't even have to look at necessarily how you're fixing this. What you need to just look at is appreciating how far you've come and how your life is an artwork that's in progress. You have really no interest in much else right now. You are very focused on improving. It could be your living situation or just getting these feelings out of you. That's all you really care about right now, and that's exactly what you're meant to do. When the artist turns to the shadow, it's using talent as an excuse to mistreat others, posing as the starving artist to elicit pity. For some of you, also, I feel like you would have had an argument with a friend recently, and it's okay to accept that you don't have to fix other people's feelings. It's okay if you shifted and you're just focused on this now. If you need to reconcile, then that will happen when it needs to. If you saw number 3, you have the rebel. The rebel. So if you saw the rebel, challenges authority to effect social change, rejects spiritual systems that do not serve your inner needs. Look at her. She is not very stressed. She's kind of relaxing. She's doing her own thing. She's up in a tree. And although you can't really see it close on the camera, her face has an expression of a little bit of a chip on her shoulder, but a little bit of like, I've earned this relaxation. I've earned the right to be a little bit rebellious. And also, she's kind of looking to the side, like she's got her eye on something. There's something that you've accomplished recently. You've had your eye on it for a while, and it's really good, but you're not sure if it's going to work out because you've had a lot of really challenging things in your life. But you have a higher perspective now. And so, in the shadow, the rebel rejects legitimate authority out of anger, rebels out of peer pressure or fashion. Oh. So, yeah, you have worked really hard to get to where you are. And if you find that you genuinely are realizing, this 9 to 5 kind of job just isn't for me, or you're realizing, wow, I love my parents, but they really do not understand me, and I don't have to sacrifice myself. Or if you're in a relationship where you're realizing, wow, I really do love my partner, I really do try to be flexible. Um, or maybe you're realizing, I don't want to let silly things get in the way of loving them anymore, like getting stuck on TikTok or working 80 hours a week. I don't want to do that. I want to be with my partner and they want that. So that's a good version of the rebel. um, a shadow version of that would be something like you get together with your friends and they're all complaining about their partners. Ugh, he just wants sex all the time, or she just wants to talk so much, and you're not necessarily bothered by that, but they're talking about it, and you start to think, oh yeah, that's ridiculous, I don't want that. And you start to say, I don't want a normal relationship. This person wants a normal relationship, and it becomes about something else. So okay, so if you saw number 4, then it's the vampire. Woo! So if you had number 4, then you've been really going through a lot, and we need to take a second to appreciate probably how exhausted you are, okay? It makes you aware that someone or something is draining your life force. This could be a woman in your life, not necessarily, but you've become recently aware that somebody just wears you out. You should know who this person is immediately. Just when you see a text from them, you think, oh gosh, now what? And there's many reasons for this, but the first step is acknowledging that sometimes people never learned how to generate their own life force, their own confidence, their own self-care. And that's not necessarily your responsibility to fix. And the exception being, a child. If a child isn't really sure how to uh, get their homework done, or how to talk to a friend that has lied to them, something like that, or a friend that always needs to borrow money for some reason, then you would step in. But as adults, sometimes we can give the gift of how can I help you find your own answer, okay? So if you've been feeling really depressed also, or really down, or even hopeless, you could have absorbed a little bit of this person's energy. And so it's just important for you to even say out loud, who does this belong to? Return to sender with love. Thank you. And the shadow is depleting others for your psychic survival, chronic complaining, and codependency. If you saw number 5, you're the seeker, or part of you is the seeker. You have probably recently taken a trip, or you have this thirst for wisdom and truth wherever you are. You don't necessarily care about the things that most people do. Most people, you are on a spiritual path, and you know that. You don't need a lot to be happy. And recently, because you have this thirst for wisdom, you have left some major footprints. There are people that literally talk about you a lot in positive and less positive ways, because you are not meant to just fit in. You're meant to be a force to be reckoned with, okay? And you're very protected right now. If you saw number 6, you're the warrior. You are the warrior. I am the warrior. Strength, skill, discipline, and toughness of will. Heroism, stoicism, and self-sacrifice in conquering the ego. So, this has not been easy. You have had to parent yourself is the main impression I get from this. So, if you feel like it's taken forever to fight your way through life, I don't know if you've had parents, and maybe you've had great parents, but there's been a feeling of having to fight for every single thing. People challenge you, people don't understand, people feel intimidated. Um, Unexplainable things happen. And the warrior, though, takes the time to refine that into strength and skill, and even self sacrifice against the parts of you that want to just give in and treat people badly. Also, you are fighting so many people's battles. I'm not sure if you realize that, but the reason it feels like such a war sometimes is because you are indirectly helping other people fight off criticism and shame and judgment. And even sometimes you protect people from themselves, which is not easy. You know, when people are getting really angry and then they try to take it out on you, and because you're the warrior, you know that's not really them. They're upset. And so then you don't have to, but you might step into battle, right? And say, hey, what's going on here? You know, I hear what you're saying, but, don't talk to me like that. What's going on? And in that, you are protecting them from themselves and teaching them how to teach others to treat them. And lastly, if you did see 7, the athlete. This says dedication to transcending physical limits, including handicaps, development of personal willpower, and the strength of spirit. The main thing here, I'm sorry, let me go back one. In the shadow, the warrior is, oh my gosh, let me go back 2. If you had the seeker, in the shadow, it is inability to commit to a path once found. If you had the warrior, the shadow is trading ethical principles for victory at any cost, indifference to the suffering inflicted on others. The athlete, dedication to transcending physical limits, including handicaps, development of personal willpower and strength of spirit. This is usually about pushing yourself beyond your limits. And although that may or may not be required sometimes in life, The fact that you are here today is you've just overcome something where you were exhausted, but you pushed through. You started eating better or working out. This is also emotional strength. And in the shadow, misuse of athletic ability for selfish ends, false sense of inner vulnerability and entitlement. There might have also been someone in your life kind of like this, and you suddenly were able to see the clarity that you can't save everybody. And if they have this sense of invulnerability and entitlement, you can gently say, hey, I want, I, when you express that you don't care how much you drink because you feel like you can do anything, or you don't have to go to the doctor, I feel worried. And of course, we can set an example with how we live our lives. So, those are some archetypes to get you started. And whether you're watching this later in the replay or not, I'm so glad that we could have this time together. And I'll see you soon. If you are interested in a collection of hypnosis videos and more videos and readings like this, you can find the link to the Uncommon Hypnosis collection below in the comment section. And also, if you want a personal reading like this regarding your life purpose or anything really, you can find the information there too. Take care.